Let me tell you something right now that's gonna shake you to the core. This ain't about hate. This ain't about fear. This is about raw, unfiltered truth that most people ain't got the heart to even whisper. But today, you're gonna hear it loud. You're gonna feel it deep. And by the time we're done, you won't just understand the stakes, you'll understand the mindset of a nation that has risen from dust and dared the world to test it. We talking about India, not Bollywood, not cricket, not curry. We talking about a sleeping giant that done woke up, stretched its arms, and is now standing chest to chest with any power that so much as tries to flex wrong. And I don't care who you are, when that tricolor flag waves high, backed by a billion-strong heartbeat, you better know what time it is. Now people throw words like conflict and war around like it's a video game. But this ain't no PlayStation, this ain't fantasy, this is real steel, real consequences, and real capabilities. You got folks asking, can India destroy Pakistan in 24 hours? And the truth, the cold, ruthless, brutal truth. Yes, it can, but what's more important is why it can. What's more terrifying is the how behind it. See, power don't come from shouting the loudest. Power don't come from parading missiles or flexing in parades. Power comes from preparation, from discipline, from scars earned in silence. And India has been preparing for decades, not because it wanted war, but because it understood peace without strength is just surrender in slow motion. Now you take a look at Pakistan, a country born out of blood, pain, and division, a country that's danced with instability like it's a partner in crime, internal strife, economic disaster, military overreach, and yet it keeps pocking the bear. But this bear, it ain't the same creature from the 70s. This is a new India, tactical, calculated, ruthless when necessary. It ain't just about defense anymore. It's about deterrence backed with dominance. Let me walk you through what would happen if India ever chose to move first. First, we ain't talking ground forces at the start. No, sir, that's old. School. We talking electronic warfare, cyber, blackouts, and real time intel that'd make your jaw drop. India ain't playing in 2025. They got space assets looking down at targets with such precision that if they sneezed, they could wipe out half a battalion with surgical accuracy. You think it's just tanks and jets. Nah, it's algorithms, satellites, stealth drones, and next-gen systems that most folks don't even know exist yet. When India moves, it doesn't scream. It silences. It neutralizes. Picture this. Within the first hour, strategic radars and airfields in Pakistan. Gone, not disabled, obliterated. You can't retaliate if you can't see. You can't move if your command centers are down. You can't fight if every signal gets jammed before it hits your unit. And India, it's been training for this, rehearsing it, refining it. And then come the Sukhoi, the Rafales, the Tejas squadrons, roaring like thunder across borders, unleashed with precision strikes so fast that by the time Pakistan picks up the radio, it's already too late. Missile silos neutralized, supply lines cut, communication hubs crippled. This ain't no Hollywood movie. This is modern day warfare mastered by one of the smartest defense ecosystems on the planet. Let me tell you what separates India from the rest. Strategy backed by restraint, capability without arrogance. It's easy to pull the trigger when you got the power, but India's been holding back, even when provoked, even when lives were lost. That ain't weakness. That's terrifying control. You ever seen someone who could destroy you in a second but chooses to spare you again and again? That's the most dangerous person in the room. And if the order ever came down, God forbid, but if it ever did, India wouldn't come knocking. It wouldn't send a letter, it wouldn't tweet, it would move with cold calculation, like a surgeon removing a tumor in silence, precision, purpose, finality. Now let's talk nukes. Everybody wants to throw around that word like it's candy. But let me be real clear. India ain't interested in mutual destruction, but Pakistan's doctrine is different. Tactical nukes, that's their gamble, but guess what? India's layered defense from S-400 systems to indigenous interceptors ain't no joke. You fire first, you'll be lucky to even reach the border. You fire second, you won't exist long enough to remember what you did. India's second strike capability is not just deterrence. It's insurance with vengeance written on the policy. Nuclear submarines silently lurkin', waitin' with payloads that don't miss. You go nuclear, you don't get a second chance, and everybody knows it. But here's the part they don't talk about: the human spirit. The soldier on the border, the pilot in the sky, the naval officer under the sea, these aren't just warriors. They're lions raised in the fire of discipline, honor, and devotion to the soil. You ain't just fight in a military, you fight in a billion souls united by one name, Bharat. Pakistan may shout louder, it may provoke more, but India is patient like the Himalayas, strong like the Ganges, deep like the Indian Ocean. And when that fury rises, it ain't just loud, it's unstoppable. People forget the Kargil War, they forget the surgical strikes, they forget Balakot, but India don't forget, it evolves. Every battle, every betrayal, every wound, it sharpens the blade, and that blade now, it's forged with AI, satellites, economic dominance, global alliances, and unmatched willpower. You mess with India today, you don't just face its army, you face an economy that funds wars on a scale you can't match. You face global partnerships with the Quad, the US, France, Israel, and Japan backing it in the shadows. You face public support that ain't just passive, it's hungry, ready, resolute, and don't even get me started on the cyber front. India's no longer just the IT back office of the world. It's the digital fortress of the future. You try a cyber attack, you'll wake up to your whole grid wiped, your banks frozen, your networks hijacked, and your secrets exposed. India's cyber warriors are silent assassins with keyboards that strike faster than bullets. Now let's get real for a moment. War ain't pretty, and India don't want war, but peace ain't real if one side's always pockin'. And if it ever gets pushed too far, if that line gets crossed one time too many, then best believe India won't just retaliate. It will finish the conversation, and that's the truth the world needs to wake up to. This ain't 1947. This ain't 1971. This is 2025, the age of unmanned dominance, orbital warfare, economic pressure points, and coordinated ground, air, sea cyber assaults, and India, it's a master of every domain. People say, oh, but Pakistan's got friends. Let me tell you something. Friends are only friends until the missiles fly. Then it's every nation for itself. You think anyone's steppin' in front of an Indian retaliation to protect Pakistan? Think again. Geopolitics is chess, not checkers, and India, it's 10 moves ahead, with a queen ready to strike at will. This ain't about pride. This is about reality. A reality Pakistan must face. Because if it keeps chasing ghosts of the past, trying to provoke a firestorm with petty attacks and ideological games, then that 24-hour clock will start ticking. And once it starts, it won't stop. But the most terrifying part of all this, India doesn't need to destroy Pakistan to win. It can dismantle it without firing a shot, through economic isolation, through cyber dominance, through diplomatic siege. It can collapse a nation by simply turning its back and watching the dominoes fall. So what's the lesson here? Don't wake the lion if you ain't ready for the roar. Don't play chess with a grandmaster when you barely know the rules, because if that day ever comes, and pray it doesn't, Pakistan won't just lose a war. It'll lose history, it'll lose memory, it'll lose existence, but make no mistake, the power ain't in destruction. The power is in knowing you can destroy and still choose to build. That's the kind of strength India holds. That's the kind of strength the world respects. That's the kind of strength that terrifies even the boldest of enemies. You can't provoke a giant and expect a handshake. You can't keep throwing stones and expect silence forever. The day India chooses to rise in wrath, the world will stand still, because when giants rise, mountains move, rivers flood, and silence becomes the loudest sound you'll ever hear. And to every young Indian listening right now, never forget this: strength ain't in revenge. Strength is in knowing your worth, building your legacy, and defending your people with such ferocity that no one ever thinks twice again. That's the future, that's the calling, and that, right there, is how India could destroy Pakistan in 24 hours. But chooses not to, because true power, it doesn't need to prove itself. It just needs to be recognized, and if it ever comes to that, you already know, the clock won't need 24 hours. It marked the birth of India's assertive military doctrine backed by innovation. Psychological warfare and media dominance break enemy morale before boots even hit the ground. You see, in modern warfare, the battlefield isn't just fought on soil or air, it begins in the minds of men. Before the tanks roll, before the missiles fly, and before a single troop is deployed, the first war is psychological. And India has mastered this space not with brute noise, but with calculated psychological chess moves that flip the script before the enemy even realizes they're playing the wrong game. The psyche of the enemy has always been the first pressure point. India's strategy has evolved from defense, focused restraint, to psychological superiority, a doctrine that believes in breaking enemy confidence through perception, disruption, and misinformation before the first bullet is even chambered. This is no longer the age of just rifles and battalions. This is the era of narrative control, emotional destabilization, and cognitive disarmament. And in this new era, India stands equipped with tools, platforms, and psychological infrastructure that shape perceptions faster than missiles ever could. Pakistan's military and intelligence apparatus has long relied on the manipulation of perception, on both its people and its rivals. But what happens when that same tool is turned inward, when the echo chamber is hacked from the inside? India's psychological warfare strategy involves not only intercepting narratives, but injecting doubt, fear, and division within enemy ranks. Through calculated leaks, cyber operations, and digital influence campaigns, India holds the capability to make the enemy question their own leaders, second, guess their own intelligence, and mistrust their own systems. Imagine a command chain that wakes up to false orders, troops receiving conflicting instructions, civilians bombarded with doctored visuals that show their airbases in flames. Real or not, the effect is the same. Fear, paralysis, confusion, psychological fatigue takes hold before the enemy can even understand where it started. And while the traditional war planners look to tanks and aircraft, India's cyber warriors are already 10 steps ahead, working silently to dismantle morale from within. Every digital footprint, every message, every troop movement tracked in real time. India's intelligence agencies coordinate with cyber divisions to create a matrix of behavioral analysis. They don't just want to know where the enemy is, they want to know asterisk how asterisk they think, asterisk when asterisk they break, and asterisk what asterisk scares them. Armed with this insight, India can deploy psychological triggers through broadcasts, viral clips, altered radio chatter, and cross-border intercepts that make the enemy feel surrounded, watched, and betrayed, even before the first shot is fired. Control over media is just as powerful. In a region where truth is often bent and perception shapes response, India's grip on digital platforms and regional media allows it to frame the conflict before Pakistan can even prepare its response. The use of AI-generated videos, real-time drone footage, and high-resolution satellite imagery released in a timely, targeted manner crushes misinformation, and floods the battlefield of ideas with cold, indisputable facts. And when those facts are shown in vivid color, streaming across every social feed and TV set, they don't just reach citizens. They reach soldiers, commanders, and international observers all at once. India's media dominance isn't about propaganda. It's about pace, precision, and preemption. By the time Pakistan constructs a counter-narrative, the global audience has already moved on. And the weight of public opinion, international media framing, and diplomatic pressures start turning inward, fracturing whatever unity remains within the enemy. Soldiers question the cause. Officers question the timing. The public starts demanding answers. Meanwhile, India hasn't even sent in the boots yet. Take a look at India's information infrastructure. With billions of data points, native social platforms, and collaborations with international tech giants, India can algorithmically shape sentiment within hours. Targeted campaigns, anonymous drops, whistleblower-style revelations, these are tools not of destruction, but of confusion, distrust, and controlled hysteria. They don't level cities. They fracture command. They stall decision-making. They make the enemy question its own heartbeat. India also understands culture as a weapon. It knows which myths matter, which symbols inspire, and which taboos terrify. Psychological warfare is not universal. It is deeply cultural. And when you know your enemy's psychology better than they know themselves, you can set traps in plain sight. Use sacred dates to spread rumors. Leak falsified troop orders on key religious festivals. Broadcast eerie silence when noise is expected, or flood the airwaves with conflicting updates that make every second guess feel like betrayal. During a high-intensity standoff, seconds matter. Delay the enemy's ability to make a decision by even a few hours, and you've bought your jets enough time to reach their target. Shake the confidence of a battalion, and they won't deploy. Hijack a few press channels and showcase burning flags and supposed defections, real or fabricated, and suddenly entire morale structures collapse under their own weight. Because modern war isn't just about overwhelming force. It's about overwhelming belief and the most powerful belief India projects is inevitability, that no matter what the enemy does, retaliation is guaranteed, precision is certain, and outcome is sealed. When you can implant that seed of inevitability into the hearts of the opposing force, resistance becomes merely a delay tactic. That belief spreads faster than fire, and India knows how to feed it. Through relentless psychological pressure, preemptive global diplomacy, and narrative dominance across all media platforms, India doesn't just show readiness, it shows certainty. Look at how India uses its own population as a psychological asset. Over 4 billion citizens standing behind their armed forces with unified messaging, viral mobilization, and unwavering support. This internal cohesion becomes an external pressure. When the world sees a united India, confident in its decisions, precise in its movements, and compassionate towards civilians, it draws a stark contrast with the disarray often seen across the border, and that contrast becomes a weapon, not of shame, but of superiority. Every soldier knows they're backed by not just a command, but a nation. Every missile fired comes with a digital wave of support, commentary, and justification that immediately defends its cause across global platforms. By the time an international debate starts, India's version of events has already become the mainstream. By the time the enemy denies, the world has already decided. That's not by accident. That's a psychological strategy born from years of digital readiness and media evolution. Pakistan, used to wielding narrative through state television and religious rhetoric, finds itself maneuvered by India's multidimensional media machine. Influencers, think tanks, journalists, drone footage, declassified documents, expert interviews, satellite drops. India doesn't just release information, it orchestrates perception. And when that perception is aligned across television, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and ground-level messaging, there is no escape from the truth it projects. Even silence is weaponized. When India stops talking, the world starts speculating. And that speculation does more damage than 100 threats. It creates paranoia, it triggers overreaction. It forces the enemy to prepare for everything, thereby exhausting its own resources chasing shadows. This is the genius of psychological warfare. It's not about what you do, it's about what the enemy thinks you might do. That uncertainty is the most brutal battlefield of all. And when the boots finally hit the ground, if they ever need to, they step onto a psychological graveyard where the enemy's confidence has already been buried. By then, their radar systems are confused. Their pilots are unsure, their troops are questioning leadership, their public is flooding emergency lines, their foreign allies are issuing cautious statements, and their commanders are hesitating just long enough to give India total operational superiority. This isn't theory, this is doctrine. This is the deliberate evolution of a nation that has realized that in the 21st century, warfare begins in the invisible realm. A realm where perception, belief, and emotion are more fragile than steel, and far more explosive. And India, with its billions of eyes, millions of minds, and thousands of digital warriors, has weaponized perception in a way that outpaces traditional warfare by light years. What's more powerful than a missile? A doubt that makes your enemy fire one first. What's more effective than a strike? A whisper that makes your enemy believe you already struck. What's more crippling than defeat? The belief that defeat is inevitable. And that, right there, is why India's psychological warfare and media dominance don't just supplement its military power. They are its front lines, the first contact, the first wave, the first blow, delivered in silence, received in panic, and remembered long after the war ends.